So here's the sound. So let's go ahead and bounce that. What's weird about this sound is sometimes I come to these in such a weird way that I don't think people would expect. Like, what did this kind of sound like? It sounds to me sort of like voices, maybe, like human voices chanting, lots of reverb. I don't know, some kind of weird atmosphere thing, right? But what's weird is that's completely made of synthetic sounds that have nothing to do with the end sound there. Actually, they come from these let me go ahead and unwarp these. They come from these samples here that I just sampled a moment ago from my modular. Like if I just listen to this one by itself. Let me pull up the, whoops. Let me pull up the little scope here. So yeah, that's one waveform from the modular droning away, and then here's another one. Sort of a brassy kind of interesting waveform. It's nice and thin. And then here's another one. A sort of like unison-ish sound, even though it's completely mono, very thin, very formanty. Yeah, and then so like these layers, as you can see, now that I unwarp them, are not on the grid because they were recorded at a totally different tempo than the project is currently at. That one's a kind of cool, like, halfway sync sound. So it's like, it's sort of like a drone and a melody at the same time. The circuit has to kind of just decide when it wants to sync. So it's not like perfect sync, it's variable sync. Anyway, the four of those made it into this weird instrument here. Which if I play a note... first of all, let me take this off here. If I play these notes, you'll hear it's these four layers that I have some vector map. So essentially, yeah, the vector map is doing kind of like a XY pad thing, but with automation and physics and whatnot. So it's kind of randomly sweeping through those layers. And this recording here it's on a grid, it's just not on this grid. So like there's a melody happening, but it's out of time. And what's interesting is I have this effect that I made that freezes a buffer of audio. So this is sort of like a clouds type deal, but you know, different because I'm using Ableton stuff to do it, and just the nature of it is different. You got like this comb filter to kind of give the illusion of width before it hits like reverb, but it's mostly like a mono signal, and that is until it hits the reverb. So it's washed out, but it's not too washed out. Yeah, totally different approach than Mutable Instruments Clouds, but same kind of deal. And then over here I have a MIDI envelope that is playing this MIDI thing. These notes are irrelevant, but the timing is what's important because that's on the grid for one, because it's repeating as you could see here. So it's more or less a musical thing to this BPM 116, and that's just basically triggering this envelope, which over here will unfreeze the buffer and allow a moment of this audio soup, or whatever you want to call it. It'll allow a moment of that to get caught in this buffer. But since the melody and stuff in these audios are not on this tempo, it's not going to catch the melody of these notes in this recording. It won't catch the notes where they start, or even anything to do with the repeating melody that it was playing. It's just gonna kind of decide when that's going to happen. And then also this MIDI clip here, where's the note at? This note is sort of off grid, but this is what's starting the one shot of the sample soup. If it was directly on the grid, then the first note would actually be at the same time of this envelope, and the buffer would catch an actual note. So since I have that slightly off, it won't capture the first note, and since the BPM of the recording is different than the BPM of the project, more than likely none of these notes after are gonna happen to hit like on the beginning of one of those notes. So what does all that mean? That basically just means we're gonna get a nice smooth buffer of audio that won't have any like loud transient noise. It'll kind of be the same level and at the end of sort of a sound, so it's gonna be just a smooth spectral image. And yeah, and that's basically how we got this. Let's see. Now if I moved these, either one of these, if I move the triggers, it'll change where it's hitting the audio. Doing this wouldn't make sense because now it's off grid of the project, but notice after, of course, it hits a note up here, how we'll have different pitches getting caught in the buffer. Versus this one. So, yeah, that's kind of cool that you can catch different notes from that melody that was playing back there. And then, of course, what gets caught in the buffer will always be slightly different because of this automation crossfading the samples. Now, instead of moving that one, what would make more sense is to just move the sample start, because this part doesn't need to be on the grid, but this part does if you want the audio that you record after the fact to be on the grid. So yeah, you'll notice it's a totally different sequence. Also notice how in this case these were close enough that there was kind of a louder transient on that one note, so that's why I didn't want them lined up. So anyway, let's rewind and remember the fact that these aren't human voices or anything like that. These are literally like synthetic analog sounds like this. And the end result is this. Which is kind of weird, right? It sounds like chanting or something. But anyway, I basically bounced that to audio, and then I threw on just a little tiny bit of effects to make it interesting. I got spectral, well, actually let me just mute this and play this way, that way you can see it. That's basically a visual explanation, but yeah, these two right here are just adding low harmonics and the fundamental, artificially introducing that so that way it just has more weight to it. And then everything on the upper end of the spectrum, I needed very small boosts, not like broadband boosts or whatever, because the frequencies up here are so small that even the narrowest peak like this is just a huge band of frequencies, and like there's no point in boosting that. Even if you went like this and put it in the spectral and put it in the smallest, thinnest density, it wouldn't, these little peaks here wouldn't be thin enough still. Those are just huge bands. So then I just used my good old, whatever this is, Neutron Exciter. I haven't used this in literally years, and I'm pretty sure it's like extremely old compared to whatever version's out now from iZotope. But it still works, so cool. I got a chance to use it one time in like a span of years. So yeah, I just threw on some harmonics with these XY grids here that have basically just different algorithms of adding saturation to these bands, and I use that to boost the high end. that's about it. Didn't really need much more than that because the sound's already too saturated a little bit. I kind of wanted a way to add more dynamics and like air in the signal so it could breathe, but it's already pretty compressed. But that's okay because it's sort of like an atmosphere layer anyway. If it was getting used somewhere, it would get like tucked in at low volume basically. Like it would be playing maybe let's see, where is it at now? Yeah, so it's at 12, maybe a little lower, like between 18 and 12. Yeah, so basically like minus 10 decibels, so not much, just a little dimmer. You know, wrap that around a bunch of like loud stuff, and then this will kind of just be like a texture filling the space in the background or the silence. Anyway, that was a bunch of random information nobody asked for, but there you go. Have a nice day. Oh wait, you go download the sound if you want. It's in the Discord, so join the Discord. It's all free and stuff. Leave a like though and help out the channel. All right, peace.